Hey there, so tonight we're going to have a quick little discussion about the new shipping fee charges on eBay. We're going to talk about holiday shipping reminders, and we're also going to talk about ethical communication in regards to shipments received or shipments not received. So first, let's kick it off with the new shipping fee charges. I don't know if you have noticed, but recently, if you're a seller and you're creating shipping labels through the eBay shipping portal with your seller discount, any first class shipping charges from 0 to 4 ounces are basically going to cost you $2.61. So anywhere between 0 and 4 ounces, it's going to be pretty much flat. Those aren't going to change incrementally at all. Once you break over into the 5 ounce, and then you go from 5 to 8, it's going to cost you $2.77, and that's going to be flat as well, from 5 to 8 ounces. And then after 8, it goes up incrementally. Now, these did come in effect a couple weeks ago, but I just don't know if a lot of people are incorporating this into their pricing structure. It is a big difference. It used to be $2.60 all the way up to 8 ounces. So now if you have an 8-ounce package, it's going to cost you 17 cents more. And it does add up, especially when you got PayPal and eBay and all the fees associated with listing and the sale of the item. It really does take a toll in regards to your profit margin taking a hit. I mean, 17 cents to somebody who's maybe making a 50-cent profit on something because they're just trying to move something, or something has lost its value and has not gone up in value. That could cut into their 50-cent profit margin if you're taking 17 cents out of there. So anyway, the new shipping charges, obviously, everybody knows that the stamp went up as well. I believe these charges and these fees, these all got wrapped up together around the same time and were dropped around the same time. I noticed the stamp charges just going up a little bit before the shipping fee charges on eBay. So keep that in mind when you're mailing your packages. It does cost a pretty penny to mail something that weighs a pound now. So keep that in mind as well. So holiday shipping reminder, Monday, February 20th is going to be President's Day. So there is going to be obviously federal observation of that holiday. And basically no mail is going to be done on Sunday the 19th or Monday the 20th. So anything that got moved or shipped on Saturday will be either probably stationary or not going anywhere until Tuesday. So if there is something where it's time sensitive as a seller, it would be good advice to reach out to your buyers and let them know that it might be sitting, or it might take an extra 1 or 2 days for them to receive the item, due to the fact that there was a federal holiday. And that is if you shipped USPS. If you shipped UPS or DHL or any other way for courier service, then they may or may not observe the holiday. But in regards to the federal post office, they're going to observe it, and you might lose 2 days in regards to your transit time, which isn't a bad thing because obviously everybody needs a day off. But you should definitely translate that to your buyers because they could have unrealistic expectations for when they should be receiving the package. And if you have a large amount of orders going in and out, you could potentially get flooded with emails, and then you have to explain yourself to a bunch of people, when it would be easier to actually just create one singular message that just is like a order update. The 20th of February is President's Day. It's a federal holiday. The 19th is also observed as a day that the post office workers do not work. So you got 2 days that it could be delaying potentially your arrival. So keep that in mind. I would say something to that effect, and then just basically copy and paste it and send it to all the people that you're sending your packages to. That would be easier than the different dynamic leaving if you wait to field those questions. So keep that in mind when you're dealing with holiday shipping. A lot of the time, you're going to have people that are definitely going to reach out to you, especially if you don't reach out to them to let them know that there's a holiday. They'll definitely reach out to you, and they'll almost be irate because there's a lot of people on eBay who are sellers and they do not fulfill their promises as a seller in regards to sending the products that are ordered, or they lie about conditions. So there is a large skeptical market on eBay. So the minute something is off, like if there's a couple more days in the shipping, then eBay estimates, it'll throw a red flag in regards to the buyer's experience, and then they'll usually immediately reach out and try to figure out what's going on. And then you've already put them in a different position than they would have been if they had the realistic expectations of what's going on. And plus it puts it a little bit more in the positive favor when they're thinking about sellers and how sellers handle their business on eBay. If you're reaching out to them and you're being transparent with the things that are going on with the holiday, that might actually put them in a pocket of eBay sellers and how eBay sellers basically handle themselves. So keep that in mind, along with the fact that the eBay shipping system doesn't estimate holidays. So it's not counting holidays at all. So when there's a holiday and it estimates it to be delivered, like let's say Monday, but it might not show up to Wednesday or Tuesday at the earliest. It might show up the following day if it's Monday, and they're expecting their package, or eBay is telling them it should be delivered today, even though today is a holiday and everyone knows that. It'll still throw the ability for them to be able to open up a case. So keep it in mind that the eBay shipping system does not recognize holidays when it tries to calculate and estimate shipping. And it also doesn't keep track of what region the buyer and the seller is in regards to how it correlates the estimate. I mean, you have somebody, this happens all the time. I'll be mailing something to Puerto Rico and I'm over in Colorado, and their estimate is the same as if somebody lives in Kansas. So I know that the person in Kansas is going to get it within that window, but when you have, it has to actually leave the mainland, whether it's by plane or by boat, however it leaves the mainland and get over to Puerto Rico, it's definitely not going to take the same amount of time. And when I track packages, it usually takes about a day or two longer to get to Puerto Rico than it does to get to anywhere else that they give the same shipping estimate to. So there's a little bit of unrealistic expectations in there, and I believe it's because the post office basically dictates the shipping fees and charges, and then you get a discount off those, and they're able to honor a discount to you for using their system basically to print out the postage. So if they were a little bit more intricate in their design of their shipping system or their shipping platform, and that would be able to basically estimate more realistic expectations, I think that would align buyers and sellers a little more. I think that would also allow for realistic feedback. I mean, most of the time you're shipping with tracking, but guess what? Sometimes orders don't ship with tracking. When you're selling something that's flat and small, and you don't need to actually pay for tracking because it's not actually expensive enough to insure, but it's definitely something that somebody wanted, something like that, it's giving unrealistic expectations on that, unless there's a tracking number. And a lot of the times, too, the tracking system won't even update properly in regards to how fast it updates when you correspond the same tracking number to USPS.com, or even some apps that you have on your iPhone might actually upload the tracking information faster than the eBay tracking system. So these are all things to keep in mind, especially when you're trying to ship over a holiday weekend and your buyer is basically looking around all over their transaction, trying to figure out where this package is at, or if the tracking information hasn't updated. If you drop something off on a Saturday, you got to also understand that if you drop it off Saturday afternoon, it may or may not get scanned, or even if it's Saturday morning, you may or may not get scanned before the holiday weekend, which would be Sunday, Monday. So it might look on your side and on the buyer's side, it's going to look as label created, but it won't actually show its first scan if it hasn't been scanned, even if you drop it off or it gets picked up Saturday morning. I've had that happen sometimes where it didn't update till Tuesday, or it didn't update till Wednesday, where it actually was already almost on its way to where it's supposed to be, the destination, and it actually skipped a few steps, but it updated the information to be real time. So I've had that happen before as well. So keep in mind also if you have buyers that are having problems tracking their order through the eBay tracking system on the website or through the app, I always advise them to go to USPS.com for the most accurate updates of their tracking information. That's usually a better indicator, especially for people who are questioning what's going on with the transaction. It couldn't be more transparent because you're now eliminating another middleman, which would be eBay, the tracking system on there. Because if there's an error in the system or a glitch or something's going on with their system, you're basically eliminating that glitch from happening and you're bringing them to the direct source. So if anybody ever has any questions, always offer, it's always best to track your order for the most accurate results through USPS.com. So again, keep that in mind when you're communicating with your buyers around the holiday time. And the last thing we're going to discuss is going to be ethical communication. So ethical communication really covers how buyers and sellers communicate with each other and what's really the way that you should handle a situation when you're communicating with somebody. For one, you're not going to be interacting in FaceTime. You're going to be interacting through text-based systems, and sometimes exchanges of media, which would be pictures or whatever you have to exchange in regards to proving a case through your communication on eBay. So when you have an issue with an order as a buyer, the first thing that you should do, especially if it's, let's say, arrives damaged, doesn't arrive, missing parts, wrong thing, not what you were expecting, you check the tracking and the tracking's not going to your address, any of these things that you can have happen to you when you buy something from somebody on eBay. The first thing that you should always do is contact the seller. If it's something that requires visual confirmation, take a couple of pictures. It's a time right now that we're living in where most people can take pictures of the things that they have, whether it's through a phone, and then they shoot the pictures through their phone to their email, or they upload the picture from their phone to their computer, and then they email it over or send it to the eBay messaging system. You could always pretty much get a picture to show your visual representation, but if you can't, then please try to describe what's going on as accurately as possible, and try to be as honest as possible, because if the seller requests you to return the item and it comes back in a different way than you described, you're definitely going to have a problem when the seller actually communicates to eBay about the condition that the item was received back. So keep that in mind in regards to how you describe what's going on. Describe it as accurately as possible, and let the seller know that you're accurately just trying to describe to the best of your knowledge what's going on. And then obviously always, if something isn't received, then you need to communicate with the seller as well and let them know, hey, I didn't get the item. If it's beyond a certain window that you feel comfortable with that the item hasn't been received in, then maybe you need to open up a case through the eBay Resolution Center. That could be an option as well. But if it's a short amount of time, if it's a few days beyond the estimated delivery window, maybe just shooting a message over to see what's going on, or maybe to get a status update, or just check yourself if it has tracking, whatever your order is. If your order doesn't have tracking, maybe message the seller. Maybe the seller had an issue where they were sick, or they weren't feeling well, or something happened, their car broke and they weren't able to get the mail out. Whatever the reason could be, maybe there is a method to the reason why your package isn't delivered on time or when you expected it to. The last thing you want to do is immediately jump to feedback. This isn't Amazon. These are people who are basically operating home-based businesses, and they are catering to people who are making purchases through a website marketplace, and that's as far as it goes. There's no warehouse involved. There's no public relations team. There's no customer service. It's not Amazon. So you need to understand that that's the type of marketplace that you're operating in. And when you're making purchases through that website, yeah, you might get things a little bit cheaper than you do on other websites, because you can do auctions, you can do buy it now. But you also got to understand that there's a human on the other end that's operating at a home-based business, not a human who's operating out of a warehouse, with a huge corporate structure where they can handle issues and problems in a different dynamic fashion, where there's multifaceted, different entities that are involved with the decision-making process of how things are handled. And also, when you have somebody who's operating on eBay, you have the money-back guarantee. So getting all bent out of shape because something's wrong isn't the end of the world, because guess what? You're going to get your money back, and no matter what you're buying on there, anything that you're going to need that's going to be like life-saving isn't going to be sold and bought on eBay. So anything that you're buying on eBay isn't really that big of a deal if something happens to your order and you just end up getting your money back. You can just buy it from somebody else. It's like no harm, no foul. But you get bent out of shape because you really wanted to own something, you wanted to possess something. But at the end of the day, we're just two people that are communicating through a marketplace online. No one's actually seeing each other. We're interacting through an online interface. It's going to be text-based. The buyer, the seller, two totally different people on the opposite ends of the spectrum. So keep that in mind when you communicate and you're trying to basically treat the other person like you'd want to be treated. And ethically wise, that's probably the best way that you can basically handle communications on eBay. If somebody is bringing something to a level that is beyond the scope of a normal conversation based off the transaction's needs, if they're using foul language, if they're talking inappropriately, or they're making inappropriate suggestive comments, these are things that you have to make the decision. Do I want to continue to communicate with this person? Either way. And inappropriate comments could cover a large realm of things. It could be a very big umbrella, but one of the main things I think about when I think of inappropriate comments would be a buyer demanding, let's say, to keep the item and to also get a refund, or to keep the item, get something for free. These are two of the most appropriate behavior, especially when they're communicating over the eBay like communication panel or resolution center. Either way, it's going to be bad for anyone that's suggesting that, because you can basically report them to eBay, and if they leave you negative feedback for not providing you what they demanded, you can have that feedback removed, because that's called feedback extortion. So again, when you're communicating with the opposite person on the other end, just make sure you understand that there's a human there. It's not just typing into your phone and then that's going nowhere and then somebody's responding back, but you never see or think that is another person on the other end. I noticed personally that a lot of people you'll see a pattern with a lot of feedback left on a lot of different sellers, including myself. But I look at other people's feedback, because like sometimes you'll see like 98.9 or 99.2, and you're like, well, that's not perfect, but it's not bad either. And then you look at some of their feedback, and then they respond to the negative feedback, and it's usually the same cases. If the buyer would have communicated with them what was going on, they would have been able to rectify it. But the buyer just rushed immediately to leave a review, and didn't allow the seller to rectify what was going on, or at least communicate what needed to be rectified to the seller. A lot of the time, things can be, happening with the transaction, with the order, that is beyond the scope of what the seller's control is. That's like your package, let's say, gets lost or stolen. If you communicate with the seller and they say, okay, well, it's beyond the delivery window that it normally would take for this item to get there, I could do one of two things. I can issue you a full refund, or I can offer you a replacement if you happen to have a replacement. This would be the proper route to communicate with the seller, because they could easily go into the transaction, go into their PayPal summary, and they can reverse the transaction and give you a full refund. And then everyone's square. And then if there's ever an issue where, as the seller, if you issue the refund to the buyer and then they say, well, I want to see if I could open up a case and get a refund again, you can call up eBay, you can report that, and actually if they do try to open up a case, as long as you refunded them in some fashion and it's the amount that was either discussed through communication or just a full refund, what they'll do is they'll actually close the case in your favor, and any feedback left, like if they get mad that they didn't get second refund, will be removed. So keep that in mind as well. So don't worry if you refund somebody on the side and it's not actually formally through the Resolution Center. It does still count, so don't worry about that not counting. Either way, it's still recorded. The history is still data logged for eBay to be able to recall everything that you've done through the website. So basically, communication also is not only kept by eBay, but anything that comes on maybe a couple days or a couple weeks down the road, that information can still be pulled up, especially if you're unaware of maybe some of the previous communications because you either lost them or you misplaced the emails. eBay could actually pull that up for you if you just call their customer service line. So that pretty much covers the ethical portion of the conversation. And obviously, the 20th of February, Monday, is going to be President's Day. And then keep in mind the new shipping fee charges on the USPS Postal Service first class shipping options. So if you enjoyed this content, please subscribe, like this video, and if you have any questions or anything that you'd like to know about in regards to shipping fee changes, holiday shipping prices, holiday shipping times, time windows, and ethical communication, leave those in the comments below, and have a great weekend.